Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Chestnut Checkers. I'm Keith Riddle here, as always, with Jordan Tampien, my co-host. And today, we're talking about how do we know if anything's real anymore?
I feel like that's the world we're in right now.
There's
so much information, you're trying to weed through it to figure out what's actually true or not.
Well, so, I mean, I guess two questions is where my mind goes. One is, does it matter? And I would say, to some extent, yes. And to other extents, probably not. I mean, what if, if you lived and died in your whole life, like on your way out, someone told you like half the things you believed weren't real? Like, would you be like, well, it didn't. I mean, I guess I don't know. Like,
I don't know. It didn't change my life, I guess. Yeah.
Maybe. But then there are certain finite things that really would, right? Like, you're like, but it's just really hard to dissect all of it, man. And I guess for me, it's also what part in the process am I playing? So am I perpetuating false knowledge, right? Because someone told me and someone told them, So I don't know. You take something pseudo controversial or whatever. They thought people the moon landing. They're like, did we ever land on the moon? Yeah. Right? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know, right? If my kid were to ask me tomorrow, like, Dad, was the moon landing fake? I'm like, at this point, I'm not sure. Right?
I'm not sure. There's enough information out there.
There's people that say it was. There's people that say it wasn't. You can Google. You can AI it. But at the end of the day, does it really matter to me on my daily basis as I go about my day whether somebody walked on the moon or not? I mean, not really. It's not going to change my Tuesday.
No. It's definitely not.
But you're like, but I'd kind of like to know.
It's the knowing, right? It's just, you just want to know, like what really happened. I think there's just a general curiosity to know the truth. Like what actually happened. And then you dive into it. And like we were talking about before we hopped on was like just the history of Spokane. And then the parts, Logan was doing this report on the Great Fire. And again, I have to research some of this too, but basically they were saying how the Great Fire happened, burned, and then the guy who had the key to turn on the water was in Coeur d'Alene. And so they couldn't get back. There wasn't enough water pressure or water flow to actually put out the fire. And then you're like, wait a second, there's one guy that had a key
and they couldn't bust the door down or find another way in. So the story I heard, right, about the Great Spokane Fire, was when the fire department used to practice, the old fire hoses were made out of canvas.
Oh,
it's not like they didn't have the rubber and the like stuff we did. So when they would practice and the hoses get all wet, they would actually have to hang them in the clock tower to dry. So they would go out and they would perform practice, and then they would hang the hoses vertically in the clock tower to dry. And if they rolled them up wet, right, over time, like canvas, like anything, it would crack or break. So I was told too that was a part of it. It was like there was this lengthy time to respond. I don't know, maybe it was the key in the pocket thing or whatever. But then also when they did respond, that some of the hoses were faulty and were like not doing their job. But at the end of the day, I don't know. The city burned down, and I can tell you about the story of like there was a city and then it burned down, and then I can tell you about the building back. That triviality in the middle, you can probably make up whatever story you want. We can make up one right now, Jordan. We can just this
as long as you say it with enough conviction and specificity.
Nobody knows, right?
Well, because like the Peyton building's super interesting. They built it, and then like 6 years later, the whole interior burned because there was paper in the basement, caught fire, it was swept up through the whole middle of the building, burned the entire inside of it. You can still see char marks at the bottom, and then they rebuilt it. But picture that, you just finished this massive building, and then a fire happened. I mean, there's just so much. I think the history, it's good to know so you're not repeating those similar things, right? That's why knowing the truth or how things happen makes sense. But I think sometimes it's just fascinating, the resilience of humans. I'd be so deflated. Let's say when I finish the Peyton project and all of a sudden 6 months later there's a building fire. You're like, man, you forget the human emotion. We gloss over the text of what happened, but then to think of like the human impact of that same thing happening. Like think of the Medical Lake fires. They have such contamination now in the soils that it's like an EPA nightmare. Well, there's probably a ton of contamination in the soils after the city fire. I mean, it was burning more than just land and stuff like that, right? It was burning chemicals, tools, wood, all sorts of stuff.
Well, and maybe not. Maybe they didn't have as much like plastics and polymers and so maybe it wasn't as like wood's carbon. I don't know. Maybe it was, but also the other thing is, I guess if you look at it like Medical Lake or whatever, and then you have this fire, and then they start testing the soil. Like, who's to say a lot of that wasn't in the soil before?
Well, yeah, you just finally tested it.
You just finally tested it, right?
Yeah.
They're like, there's all this contaminants in here. It's like, well, maybe half of it was there before and half of it was there after.
Yeah, it's the latecomer curse, man. It's the people that develop now and keep going forward. Or as you uncover those things, it doesn't matter if you put it in the ground or you didn't. You got to clean it up to make it happen.
Well, exactly. And with real estate, I think both of us know that story all too well. But they're
way
like,
too well.
we're going to do a phase 1 site assessment. And you're like, oh, so I'm going to be responsible for the tank that somebody buried in the ground in 1943, right? Yes, you are.
Didn't disclose it. Yeah.
You absolutely are.
Oh, man, there's so many things like that. I can't even play phase 10 without some PTSD of thinking of phase 1, 2. And I'm like, if I ever got to 10, this would be deadly.
Yeah, I think I'm at a time in my life where I just like hearing the stories of, amazing stories of people and what happened, and then like the resilience, because I'm just in a phase in my life where I just am like, okay, so I'm not alone. But also, everybody has had, it should be known, or it goes to say that everybody throughout their life is going to have things that happen that going to seem crazy for us. We talk a lot about like things that have happened in our life, like COVID, right? For our grandparents, maybe it was like World War II or World War I, right? Like everybody has these things. The family house burned down, somebody got sick, somebody got kicked by a horse, somebody, like trials and tribulations are not new.
Yeah.
And I think it's how you respond to them that's of most importance. But also it's helpful to hear people's stories and hear about those responses as much as it is to hear about the problems. And I think that's sometimes what you don't hear enough about. People talk about like the big issues or the, you'll never believe this. And it's like, but then you don't get the aftermath story either of like, how did you deal with that? What was that like emotionally, or what was that like mentally? And that's one of the things I love talking to old people about, or like as I've gotten older, is like diving in more deep of like, tell me more about that. Yeah. Like don't gloss over the recovery or the dealing with instead of the story. Right?
Yeah, even when we were talking with Aaron about COVID, being like, think of the things you already glossed over. And we're 6 years removed from the start, right? Mm-hmm. And just you're like, okay, I do remember delivering crawlers door to door to people who would buy them, kinda. I don't remember how hard the employee stuff was. I know it was hard because we had to update every single day, and if somebody tested, you had to do a bunch of things. I remember the rules would get handed down in weird ways, like we can keep one door open, one door closed, but we can have a tent outside as long as one side of the tent's open. Right.
Yeah.
And things like that unless you dive into them. Now I just look at them like, yeah, that was a huge health scare. That wasn't great. It was a huge business scare. That wasn't great. But like, I think in general in life, we do that to things. Yeah. I don't know if that's to process them because so much is being processed every day, but like we put them into these vaults. And like I was telling you, like half the reason I put that book out when I did was because I was like, I just don't want to forget this. I feel like that's something my mind would package and try to forget.
Yeah.
Just distill the lessons from it and then move on. And I was like, no, I think sometimes sitting in that pain of the moment is where the building and the growth and all the pieces happen. And we want to skip over those. It's like my greatest fear for this next generation. And I do it with my daughter all the time. I want to skip pain for her. Yeah. And my fear is that it's the pain that makes us. It wasn't the building burned down. That took a day.
That's the paradox of being a parent, or that's the paradox I think in life is the thing you want most to avoid for your child or for yourself a lot of times is the thing that shapes you or creates you as a capable person able to deal with the things that you want or you desire. So I want, a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio that helps me create passive income and wealth in my future. But I want to skip all the crappy, shitty, upside down, backward, lose money deals to get there. But then you hand somebody that portfolio, they're ill-equipped to deal with it, they lose it, right? Or it doesn't perform and so it's like there's that really weird thing. And I think going back to the parental example is, that's one of the things I have to consciously stop myself sometimes from helping my daughter with things or from watching her figure things out. And I've noticed specifically probably in the last couple of years, she's pre-teenish, but I will be halfway across the room and I'll stop and turn around and walk away. Like, oh man, I wanted so bad to go over there and like grab that out of her hand or show her how to do something. And then I'm like, you know what? It's not the end of the world. It's not a matter of life and death. It's not a danger thing. She's getting some tears in her eyes. She's wild, but you know what? She'll figure it out. And inevitably, I think 99 out of 100 times, I'm usually glad I did,
Yeah.
you know, or I'll wait for her to come ask or just say, hey, I'm so frustrated right now. I'm seeing red and I need some help or something, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I remember it very vividly. It was like probably one of those 5 decisions that changed your life. I was at Whitworth freshman year, didn't start try out for baseball, didn't make it. Thought I was crushed because it's the first time now I don't get to play sports in my entire life. And I remember coming back because I could have played at our Big Bend Community College. And so I come back and I go, hey, Dad, I'm moving home this first semester. And he goes, well, you're not living here. And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, you're not living here. If you're coming back, you're getting a job. You're figuring this thing out. And I remember I drove back to Whitworth and they're like, nope, I'm staying. And it was the best decision I ever made. But I have to now look at like how my dad did that. And that was probably one of the hardest things he had to do. Because if Logan said, hey, I'm going to come live with you the rest of my sweet, man. Like, I'll keep the house. You stick around. Like, I enjoy it. But like to be a parent that's like, no, you're not doing it. And it's that weird one. But it's some very pivotal moments in my life where like that hardest thing made me the most resilient. And so now I go into any situation. I'm like, nope, it's just a Whitworth, right? I may not feel comfortable, but I'll find my way through it. And without those experiences, it'd be interesting to see how I'd have handled just even the stuff I do now.
Well, I found this with business and with employees and with training and hiring and partnerships, all the things where I'm also tied to the failure ancillarily. And so my desire, or a lot of times my need to want to help somebody or fix something, is because I also will be negatively affected. And that's one of those kind of growing things for me that I've learned is like, as I've built things or hired people or partnered with people or whatever, is like also in the process of doing it, creating this space that allows them to fail and learn and know that I'm also going to be negatively affected, but like going in with more of that approach of building that into the space. So, you know, my niece wants to start a coffee stand. She's 20 years old. She's like, hey, Uncle Keith, will you help me? I have to know as a 46-year-old business guy that I'm about to go into business or help a 2-year-old start a coffee stand. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I also need to do it in a way that I'm like, okay, so I need to give this space here for her to like screw up, to not make money for 3 or 4 months, or to screw up with the orders, or to screw, you know, and it's like, but that approach I think was a learned approach for me, because early on in my business career, I was hiring out of need.
Yeah.
To where like I needed to hire this person to help me because I was running out of time, or I needed to be able to leverage more. And so now you're kind of hiring this person, but I'm also like, but don't screw this up, dude, because like I'm now spending money to pay you to help me grow. And then when you're screwing up, you know, and it's like, it just created this kind of level of intensity and this level of like pressure that I think, I don't know that I could have avoided it up front completely, but I definitely could have done it a little different. And I think would have obviously ended up getting to a similar point, and probably in a more enjoyable way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, because the hard part of that, the person's failure, is it the impact it now has on you, or is it that you didn't see it coming?
I think it's both, but I also think you're stunting their ability to grow and their growth, but you're also creating a problem for yourself. And like I said, just a level of pressure and intensity that may not need to be there. And this is all reflection, right? Like hindsight's 2020. So when I think back now, or when I talk to young entrepreneurs or business people, it's kind of like passing that wisdom forward. Is like, I hear those same things with people that, you know, just like when someone comes to you and says, Jordan, here's my business plan, or here's my development plan, and you immediately can see 3 or 4 holes that they just can't see, or that they don't know about. But you also have to say in a consultative way, like, well, have you thought about this? Have you considered that maybe this number might move a little bit, or that this scenario might take a little bit longer than you think? Is a much better way than like grabbing it, tossing it back to them, being like, you're an idiot, don't do it. That's a terrible idea, right? Like,
because nothing's learned from that.
Right. And yet I think all of us in the process of, we've been on both sides of it. So now as I get older, I think I've always had this phrase that's stuck in my head. But a buddy of mine, I said it one day and he looks at me and he goes, oh yeah, that's totally you. But I've always had this phrase where I said, I am typically very comfortable with somebody else being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I would say that might be one thing that comes more naturally to me than like for my wife, for example, or for business partner. Like, say I don't like it, but I'm willing to sit there and watch my daughter struggle, or I'm willing to sit there and watch like a client struggle or an agent struggle or a business owner struggle, only because I know that what the good will come out of it, or that can come out of it. And that also I take solace in me interrupting it doesn't necessarily teach them anything or change the outcome. It just delays their experience of it.
Exactly.
So it's just that kind of adage of like, you're never going to understand what getting smacked in the mouth is like until you've been smacked in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And so if every time, I see a punch coming, I block it for you, or I move you out of the way, I'm not really changing the fact that at some point in your life, you're going to get smacked in the mouth and it's going to hurt. But you're never going to know that feeling unless you experience that. And so there's this balance, but I think for me, I've always been, like I said, fairly comfortable with other people being uncomfortable.
Yeah. That was one of my bigger issues. I wasn't comfortable with people being uncomfortable. I wasn't comfortable with silence. That was another big one. I couldn't sit in a space where you just sit there and wouldn't talk. So Joel does it all the time. And I'm like, say something, man. I feel like, and then I over talk. And so it's those pieces you don't know until you're reflective enough to do it. But I'm definitely much better on the support side now, where you let that thing happen. And then I'm there more for the support versus stopping it, which is what I used to do more so. Because I would do the math and I'm like, well, as soon as she gets hurt there, that's 2 more days, or this is going to cost me 3 more months. Like if I just fix it right now.
Yeah.
And then all it does is, to your point, is delay that. Well, now the next miss isn't 3 months, it's 6 months.
Yeah.
Then it's a year. And I think it was the biggest realization I had going through most of the stuff. And this is my whole life. That's not just this last part. Is that I just had this thought of like, no, you'll get to that mountaintop. Like you're going to put those problems behind you. You're going to eventually create a space where there isn't a problem. And all I realized is like,
let me know if you figure that one out.
I think what I realized in that thing is there always is. And you're equipping yourself to deal with those problems. And it's the people that go in and are like, no, I'm going to run a restaurant. Why do they fail? It's because you ran into your first problem.
Yeah. And
you're either blindsided by it and you get punched, and you either get back up or you don't. And I think that's really hard if you've never been trained to fight, and then that happens.
Well, and if it also makes you realize how much you love the thing that you're chasing. So somebody who really loves culinary and culinary experiences, or creating culinary experiences, or a restaurant or whatever, and they go into business for themselves to create that, and then a problem comes. Depending on your passion for the thing, though, a lot of times will dictate the tolerance that you have, or the resistance or the resilience that you'll have to protect still being able to do that thing.
Yeah.
But also sometimes you realize just quickly, not in a bad way, but you'll be like, hey man, I'm having trouble making payroll. This next payroll, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it. You know what? I don't even really like this effing restaurant that much. Or I don't even like, but yet they still will like culinary. They're like, hey man, I'm a person who loves to cook at home. I'm a person who likes to, take different recipes. So it's like, but you just realize you don't love it that much. Yeah. You don't love it enough to deal with those problems. Yeah. I think for me, one of the stickers that I've noticed in life is that it's easy to power through for things that you're very passionate about and kind of take it on the chin or fight through a lot of things. It's easy to quit or give up on things that you're not that passionate about. But that's really an oversimplification of a lot of times the scenario or the situation, because sometimes it's the lesser of, or it's both, right? Yeah. It's, hey, I am really annoyed and frustrated at this situation. I'm not even that tied to this thing, but this is also a really big problem that needs to get solved. And by the way, like I can't not solve it. Yeah. Right. And I think that's one of those really trying moments of like, can you bear down and can you dig deep, and can you work through solving or dealing with really hard situations when it's also not something that's going to benefit you, or it's not something that really you're passionate about. And I think that to me is watching those people, having to be that person myself, is where the rubber really meets the road.
Yeah. And if I was investing, like, especially if you're an entrepreneur, that's where I'm investing my time, is building that space, building that kind of mindset, building those pieces. Because to the technical skill, I had said before, you could go create an HVAC company tomorrow. It'd probably be successful because you're going to apply those same skills that deal with a payroll. I mean, for every Jeff Bezos, there's a Mark Joe, right? That's like, there's the guys that don't make it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's fantasize the overnight celebrity or success, but like look at Jeff
there's
Bezos,
like
there's
a
20
million to one
that don't
right?
make
$1 billion
it.
to one, yeah.
And a lot of times it's not, even if you fight through it, doesn't mean you're making it.
Yeah.
But it's how do you deal with it when you keep fighting, keep missing, and how do you keep fighting, and what are you learning, and what are you doing, and I think this podcast has been awesome for me because I get to hear it from more and more people there, how they approach difficult things and how they approach good things. Right? We talk about the hard part because I think that's missed the most. It'd be super easy to look at and be like, yeah, look at Keith's successful. Started a real estate company, flips a ton of houses. It's over 100, and then sold his company. Like, look at the success, and then you discount some of those steps in there, right? That got you there, and what really gets you there. And some of it, that you say it all the time, but like some of it could just been timing. You were also into brokerage during the best 5 years of Spokane real estate.
Well, and I think anybody who's had success any success or mega success specifically, it's usually a combination thereof, right? Yeah. It's somebody who's smart, who works really hard, and luck. A lot of luck and things that fall in the right place or being in the right place at the right time. You know, I don't think there's a single story that you'll ever read that doesn't have parallels to each one of those aspects, right? Yeah. No one does it through all work and determination. No one does it through all luck either. No. But it's a combination thereof. And so I think as you go through life and as you look at scenarios and situations, it's also good perspective to keep in mind, right? So as you start that new coffee shop with your 20-year-old niece, this hypothetical I'm making up, it's to say, hey, like this is going to be a lot of hard work, and we're going to screw up, and we're going to make mistakes, but we're also going to stick with it, and we're going to bear down, and we're going to work even when it's hard and it's not really fun, and also we're going to pray for a little bit of luck. Yeah, And if we do all those things, then then we can make a business out of this. And I think those are kind of the things that I think about now, or the stories that I have from my experiences that I would say a younger Keith just didn't understand as much, right? Yeah. And I was probably banking too much on getting lucky. Yeah. Or I was banking too much on my sheer work ethic or determination. Because you did. But you did, right? Yeah.
And that work effort the equation equaled success. Like that's what makes it so difficult. Is that the things you did do that? Like, but now I'm underwriting a property and I'm like, all right, well, I know expenses are close to 35% of income. We're going to go to 40. I know rates are 7. We're going to put 8.5 in here and see what happens. And it's just, but had we not gone through this, I'm like, well, great, they go to 5. Great. This was awesome. And I think sometimes it's that mix of there is a preparedness, right? You start a coffee shop and you throw it in Elk, Washington. Probably going to have less success than if it's in downtown Spokane, downtown Coeur d'Alene, right? And I think that those are the distilling moments. Pull the parts you can control, and then pray for the parts you can't. And I think that's kind of the other side of just being prepared and how you approach these things and do it. So
I've been thinking a lot lately too about. It's easy enough sometimes to say things. It's harder to do them, obviously. But preparing yourself for or getting ready to do things that you're not good at. And as you go through life, like being aware of those things, but not giving up on them completely. So like an example I'm thinking of is like, I've heard enough times or enough people will tell you, like, you need to quit worrying about what other people think about you. Right? You need to quit worrying about your ego, your image, your brand. Like you need to be true to yourself. You need to just stick to your guns. You need to focus on what you need to focus on in your heart, and wherever the cards fall, whatever everybody says about Keith or Jordan or whatever, you got to let that go. You can't let that bother you. And yet it bothers me sometimes. It
does.
Right?
Yeah, there's no way around it.
So it's like, well, sure. So then it's like, but now I know that. So now you know the knowing, right? So now I'm like, okay, I know that I shouldn't let this affect me. I also know that it does affect me sometimes when it shouldn't. Mm-hmm. And then I also know that there's a value probably out of Keith also not being a robot or a sociopath and like actually caring what people think. It brings some good. Yep. And yet I can't be making decisions based off perception or what other people are going to think when that won't help me make right decisions. So then it's like, okay, well then how do you navigate that? Like how do I'm asking you, if you got the answer, please let me know. Mm-hmm. Or things like, I'm interested because you obviously have lived a life of scrutiny to some extent publicly that you've had to deal with. And so I'm curious about how you deal with that. But even like I'm asking myself, like, Keith, how do you deal with this when you know this is a real thing? And I can't just be like, well, I don't care what anybody thinks. That's fine with me. And I'm like, I do care. So I can't lie to myself. That's not going to fix it. But I also can't let it affect me as much as maybe I have in the past. So it's like, well, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, and I think some of the experience, I remember when I first got started, or even before I got started, just learning more about real estate, and they would always be, especially in Spokane, those big developers are assholes.
Yeah.
They're mean. They don't work with anybody. They do this. You know why? It's because they've dealt with 50 scenarios where the tenant screwed them.
Yeah.
The city did something. They pulled out. And you develop this almost hardened element to it. And so when you hear, you see a news article of one of the top developers punching a bailiff in court. I mean, like, my fear of doing what we do is that you have to harden yourself enough to where you literally don't care about that. You see the vision enough, your goal is that. And so everything else becomes a collateral damage to that goal.
Yeah.
Like somebody brought it up one time, they're like, man, think of the top developers. How many buildings are named after them in Spokane? I mean, they give back. I'm not questioning giving back, all that stuff. But like, it's really hard to marry the two. And a lot of people that give back, it's because your business already hit that level where you moved to Jeff Bezos, where you're sponsoring the Met Gala and you're going out to things. But all the way up to that point, he had to fire a ton of people. He had to hire a ton of people. He had to do and so what I've found is I struggle with it the most because I think at the end of the day, it's like, well, I don't want another building. Like I want a better community. That I want to fight for. But even in that fight, you're going to have people on one side and the other. And so for me, it's just been getting more and more confident with who I am, what I am, and then the things closest to you, and those you never compromise on. But like, I'll announce another project, and all of a sudden it'll be 50% of the people will be like, you're ruining our city. The other 50% are like, hey, great. Like, and I think it's going to come naturally with that choice. So I back that all the way up to then why do people choose it? Like, that's coming down the line. If you go do something of the consequence
level. Well, I would
level.
say that maybe people choose it because they don't know it's coming down the line, or they underestimate that it's coming down the line as much as it's going to be. I underestimated how much I would be in the public eye.
Yeah. Did you?
I think I did, for sure. Not because that wasn't the goal. That was never the thing, right?
Yeah.
What I wanted.
But like when you thought of the thing you wanted,
build a successful real estate business and a career and invest smart and all that jazz. I never wanted the public eye.
Yeah.
But long enough timeline, if you're doing projects and renovating old buildings or building apartment, like people are gonna want to interview you or talk to you or take a picture of it and your name. But that was not something I was focusing on or necessarily preparing myself for. That I think if I were to look back now and have a conversation with a younger Keith, I would say, hey man, you probably should be spending some time focusing on knowing that this is coming and how you're going to either deal with it or how you're not going to deal with it or protect yourself from it. Just because it happened like it's like flipping a light switch one day. Like, I don't even remember when it happened, but I just remember being like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah. Right.
Or you go places and people know who you are and you don't know. And it's just like, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like, I definitely did it unintentionally.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine definitely wasn't that way. And there's two ways to go about it, right? There's two people I asked to come on here. Really, they'd be awesome on the podcast, but they're like, we don't want to. Like, we want to just do our thing in private. We just want to fly under a radar and go do it. And so you could choose to do that. The issue is like, but in my head, it's like, well, how are we going to impact community and change? It's not going to be by flying under the radar, right? If I just did the Brick West building and rented to somebody has to take the concept and get people down there, get them engaged and get them going. And so I think you could definitely build a life you fly under the radar. It's just,
I think the old adage of like choose your battles comes to mind. Right? Pick and choose your battles wisely because there's only so much time and energy, but also know that some battles are going to come to your doorstep that you didn't want. Correct. And you still have to deal with them or you still have to fight those battles. And that to me is one of those things that keeps life interesting. Right. But in hindsight, I wish that someone would have had that conversation with me, or if I was speaking to our audience right now, regardless of where you're at in life, is like, how do you pick your battles? And how do you leave space for the battles that are going to come to you that maybe you didn't pick? And for me, I just decided at some point in time, like with doing this podcast, there's always like when we started this thing, there's always that thought of like, man, am I going to say something dumb? Am I going to get, whatever, like the fear of getting canceled or people getting mad or what? And at some point I was like, I have to speak my truth. Yeah. Like, period. Yeah. Like I got to let those cards fall where they fall. That's something I can't go to my grave with. Now, do I have to get active politically? Do I have to pick up the sword every time there's some injustice in town or something? Like, no. But I'm also I'm not going to not talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not going to just not shine a light on it or say, hey, like that's kind of screwed up or hey, whatever. And consequences be damned in the sense of like, that is what it is,
Yeah.
but that's kind of just where I drew one of my lines was like, yeah, I care about what people think of me. I care about my image to some extent. I also can get my, alligator skin on and be like, hey man, people are going to believe things that aren't true or say things that, or have misperceptions. I can let all those cards, but what I can't do is can't not speak my truth.
Yeah.
Or I can't placate to other people's perceptions of me and have it dictate what comes out of my mouth.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest part, right?
Right.
So
if there's a truth that I feel like I need to express and
Correct.
I'm not.
Correct.
Because I'm worried about perception, then to me, that was something that I decided I couldn't live with. Like I couldn't do that part of it. It was like, well, then I guess they're not going to like me. you know, like I guess I don't know what to say.
And I think you'll just generally have that. I think that's what I've realized through this part of the journey. Definitely didn't think it'd be as public. I knew I was doing projects, right? I knew that by being public, I could get more deals on projects and could go do more. Definitely have a heart for building a community that my daughter can be proud of. So all of that's always stayed the same. But it was when that part comes out that you really have to question, what am I doing here? Like, I don't need this stuff to make my life better or worse.
Yeah, and there are times now for sure that I don't engage when I really want to, or but I also know that it's not going to produce a positive result or change much. I had a conversation the other day with a buddy of mine, a real estate investor, and he's like the chicken or the egg conversation, but he's like, what do you think came first, like the slumlord or the terrible tenant? And I was like, dude, the terrible tenant for freaking sure. Yeah. And it was just one of those things where I was like, nobody, for me, it's like the conversation was spurred out of, we just kind of look at a property of mine that it's been a rental for years, and this last tenant just trashed it, right? One of those great scenarios. You get a call on a Tuesday. You're like, hey, man, keys are ready. And you're just standing there almost in disbelief. But it's making you kind of question everything about what you do. Yeah. It's like one of those days or moments where I'm just like, man, really? Like this is what I have to do now. And there's a million emotions going on and a million things going through it. But it's like, that's life, and that's not what I signed up for, but that's one of those scenarios I got to deal with. Yeah. So like in that scenario, tenant trash is a house, right? It happens, but it's one of those things where it's like, I'm talking to my buddy who's a newer investor, and I'm like, this is something that's going to happen. You just got to prepare yourself to happen. And I think we all kind of lie to ourselves that it won't happen as much, but I was like, also just know it's going to happen at the absolute worst possible times. Right. But it's one of those things where it's like, I can't not fix it. Right. If I do not fix this house, then I can tell you what happens. Then I'm going to get some mail from the city, probably some posts on the door. Eventually if you leave it long enough, they'll board it up. They'll call it abandoned, and they will auction it off. They will just take your property from you because, they won't let property owners not take care of their property. So you have to fix it. But then I'm like, well, what if you don't have the money? Yeah. Well, what if you don't have $30,000 laying around to get it rent ready again? Yeah. Okay, now you got to clean it up, and you got to like either board it up or secure the property yourself. But then it's going to sit there vacant. Like, okay, I can do what I can do to get all the garbage and stuff out of the yard, and make it look appealing. Keep the lawn mowed. But like, I don't have kitchen cabinets, and I don't have vanities, and I don't have flooring. So it's like, okay, but now you're going to make a payment with no tenant in a property, right? Like, even if it was free and clear, you still got to pay the taxes, the insurance. Whatever. So it's like, so you get in these scenarios where it's like this, you can't not do anything. You could halfway do it, and now you just have a negative bill every month. Yeah, you're just paying for an asset to sit there vacant that you can't afford. Or you go and you repair the whole thing, and you drop your $30,000. And I'm explaining to my buddy, I'm like, but understand, like the underlying mortgage is probably 7, tenant probably pays 12. You throw taxes and insurance on top of there. It's like it cash flows. Let's call it $300 a month.
30.
So how long does it take me to get $30,000 back?
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
So
and that's if no other tenant trashes it again for $30,000.
For 30 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or 10 years, excuse me. So I'm like, that's one of those scenarios where it's like, again, wasn't explained to me when I was a young investor. Yeah. maybe now it seems like obvious. You're like, how could you not think of that, right? And I'm like, yeah, because you didn't. Well, and you also think about it when you have you're trying to get your first rental or your second rental or whatever. But fast forward is like, it doesn't negate the fact that I still see value in being a real estate investor.
Correct.
That I still want to invest in real estate. Because then there's the fourth scenario, right? So the first scenario is you do nothing, city takes it. The second scenario is you board it up and you have a reverse bill. Third scenario is you drop your 30 large and just know you're not getting your money back for like 10 years based on the cash flow. Or the fourth scenario is you sell it, right? And that's what a lot of other people, if I get to telling real estate stories, people will be like, why don't you just sell them, dude? Why don't you just sell them all? And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, let's talk about that for a minute, right? Exactly. First and foremost is, you get hammered with the taxes, right?
Excise tax.
Like I just sold off a bunch of properties tomorrow. You're getting hammered, right? Two is like, you can't do that. It's not a light switch. It's not a light switch, right? I mean, it's like if you have, a real estate portfolio with 20 properties in it, it's like there's 12 months in a year. Like you'd have to be selling like 1 or 2 a month every month for like the next year to even get rid of them.
With tenants in them.
With
trying
tenants
to set up
in them,
showings.
and they're not in the best, So it's just not one of those. But so it's one of those things where it's just like I only tell these stories now to young real estate investors or talk to them about just to say it's still a good idea. Yeah. I feel it's still worthy of doing.
I do.
I still think it's a better investment than the stock market. And by the way, but here's what you need to prepare yourself for. Yeah. And I think to me, it's kind of like, I look at it like, going across the Oregon Trail or something, right? Like, I'm like, hey man, the West is beautiful and we're in New York, right? And I'm not telling you not to go out West. What I am going to tell you is what the journey to get out West is going to be full of, so that you're not just like a deer in the headlights sitting there. And I think, that's one of those things. Like, well, it's going to be like disease. There's going to be sickness. There's going to be shitty weather. There's going to be attacks. There's going to be, and then people go, why would you go? And I'm like, yeah, because
you still want to get out West. You still want to get out West.
Because out West is still cool.
And I helped enough guys in their 70s sell that portfolio of 100 homes, man. It pays off. And it's that really hard one. I think people struggle a ton because when you say it's better than the stock market, well, probably not the last 3 years. But that's a snapshot.
Yes, correct.
That's a snapshot. And I think the key is when you're investing is to think of it like investing. The downside is we do so much day trading and gambling, all the things now that are like, oh, stock went up 50% in 2 days. And you're like, that's not normal. That's not the consistent wealth you're supposed to be building there.
Well, and just like you would tell different kids that you have or different friends that you have to do or not do certain things, it's also based upon the person. So like for me, I wouldn't tell someone who's probably not like me or has similar demeanor or skills or attributes of me to do what I've done, right? Because like there are a lot of people I would say, hey, like, dude, do not invest in real estate. Like, go invest in the stock market. Like, just put your money in the market, get a budget set, drop $300, $500 a month, whatever. Just build it. Don't go into this world. Yeah, I meet other people and I'm like, hey, dude, like you could crush this game, but you gotta have that demeanor, And I think so. Real estate's I feel like real estate's a better investment for me than the stock market is for me. And that's just a me thing. And I think there's people out there like me, and I think there's people out there not like me, and they probably do better in the market.
Yeah, and like I think of like the Lolo Loft's a good example. Like what reason I love it is like I'm renting 1 bedrooms for $1,900 and we're full. But I can literally do a post today about a vacancy. I can call people. I can do something about the outcome of that project that I don't have that ability with the stock market side of it. And so for me, it definitely makes a ton of sense to go that route. It's just as you're looking at what is a good investment, and then you look at kind of how the stock market keeps reacting to, I would say, that aren't fundamentals. It's really where is a safe place to go and grow your money.
Index funds?
But like retiring or end of life care stuff. I mean, it requires that your money makes money at some point.
Well, according to Elon, you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Let's hope he's onto something there. But I think that's
this is one thing I hope he is right about.
Yeah. But I think that as people go through it, but one of the big reasons I did this was I just realized kind of how lonely that journey is. And so like half this podcast sometimes is just like telling people if you fly under the radar, over the radar, you're on the radar. is that it's still a struggle through if you're taking the reins to get through this from a real estate ownership to a business ownership to sometimes just honestly being a person. And I think that what my hope is that people come across and you're like, okay, how do I mentally prepare and get myself prepared for this and understand that more people are going through this? It's not just me. It's not just this thing.
And that, I think, is what I kind of drifted off of it. But what I started this path or this conversation about was being in those moments of standing in that yard, looking at that place trashed is like, listen, it's not any of it in the sense of like, it's just the middle of the marathon. It's mile 12 of 24. It's like, it's not the end. Like, I'm not ready to cash out or like push the chips into the table and really get the fruits of the labor and then just kind of like talk about the stories like, oh, I remember that time, you know? But I'm also like not super young, super eager, just buying my first property, really kind of take it on the chin because you're just jacked up. It's like, you're in that middle, you know? You're in that middle where I'm like, fuck, I can't not deal with this. There's no benefit to me really dealing with this today that's going to make like there's a million other things I could do right now that will move the ball forward for me faster or quicker or really probably a better priority, right? But you can't avoid it. And you're just in that kind of that middle of where you're just like, man, and that's part of the process, right? Like it's a process. I mean, that's like one of my mantras. It's like, what was it? Repetition is the mother of education, right? Like it's just that repetition. But it's also like, but it sucks. Yeah. It sucks, man. It's taking the snaps all day, every day and game, you know, you're in the off season type thing.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think the downside of social media, even snapshots, is that you just see that side of it. Because when I think back on it, right, I think sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for because you might get it. So if I told you today, Keith, not you. You're not a good example.
Brennan, I wanted the good parts, though. I wanted the good parts. I didn't want the bad parts.
But like, think about it, right? So if I told Brennan today, he's like, Jordan, I want to own a 100-unit apartment building. That's his goal, right? So Brennan wants to go out and get 100 units. And you go to do it. And what's going to happen is all of the lessons you have to learn from the type of financing you're getting to the investor cash in it to DSCR requirements to how you manage a unit like that, how do you oversee it, how do you asset management. Well, the issue was I wanted 100 apartment buildings. Well, guess what I got? I got 100 unit apartment buildings. What I forgot was that in going for a goal like that, there is a slew of things you have to overcome to get that goal.
Hey, you didn't want the black eyes.
I don't want the black eye, but to get 100 units, you're going to get a black eye. You're going to face a deficit. You're going to face high vacancy. You're going to face these things. And I think too often we lose sight of that. And it's like, no, I want a $10 million business. Okay, well, to get a $10 million outside of just straight luck, which can happen, but very rare, it's like, you're going to have to overcome these points to get there. And so I think of, like, I look at something, pray to God, and I'm like, hey, just make me stronger. Well, he's not going to just make me stronger. He's going to throw such hard situations at me that I have to overcome them. Well, what's the net effect on the other side of that?
Makes you stronger.
Makes you stronger.
Right.
And I think too many times we just want the 100 units. And I think that in my head was what I learned. Yeah. And we want the strength without the test.
Well, and that goes back to the parenting and the kids thing, and like my daughter watching her well up in tears trying to overcome something, is that's where the strength comes from, right? Yeah. That's where the self-esteem comes from. Correct. That's where the confidence comes from. And I think that's, you cannot remove it for other people. You cannot remove it from yourself. But these are these little life lessons. I think when you look into the world, though, that for me, perspective-wise, is just knowing that no matter who the person is or what they're chasing or what the scenario is, all these parallels kind of live for everybody. Yes.
They do at every level. Yeah. That's the thing is if you're just buying your first rental, it's going to live at that level. All these parallels underlie and it's like my hope is that people listening to this or even whoever I can influence is go help that younger generation, understand. Like I'm one of the younger ones here, but I could use that same advice. But it's like what you learned could be in a completely different industry. Those parallels apply across all of this. Yeah. And I think that's the one I'm starting to see unfold more and more is it's not like a rocket science thing, but it truly is understanding, do you care more about what other people think? That's going to affect your life across multiple platforms.
Or not lying to yourself about you do care what other people think. Yeah. So now what are you going to do about it? And by the way, just saying, well, I'm just going to stop carrying isn't going to work.
Correct.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Right. It's just saying it's like, I can't lift up a 500-pound dumbbell and I'm just going to tell myself, well, I'm just going to lift it up. Okay. Let me know how that goes for you. You know, like there are certain truths in life that I think, negate the physicality, of lifting that $500 dumbbell. That is a very practical, black and white physical scenario that we can kind of just say, oh yeah, that would be silly, right? If I were to point over across the room at a 110-pound guy and tell him to go lift it, people are like, oh, that was dumb, Keith. Like, of course you knew. But we lie to ourselves about the things that we're mentally capable.
Why do you think we do that?
We're emotionally capable. Well, I think it's easier. I don't know if you lie to yourself. It's easier to either under or overestimate when there isn't a direct, tangible sort of physical scenario. Yeah. Right. So someone's like, hey, Jordan, do you think that you could manage running 10 new businesses tomorrow? Because I got a sweet deal. This entrepreneur wants to cough up. They all make money. They're all great. He's got 10 businesses that are up and running and flourishing. Could you manage all 10 tomorrow? And you just kind of sit back and think about well, I don't know. I'm a pretty good business person. I think I managed it. And you're like, yeah, I can do it. And it's like, no, you can't.
And you shouldn't.
Terrible,
you
right?
shouldn't.
But we cannot lie to ourselves about that because there's no direct effect. Yeah. There's no 1 second split test. And I think for me, emotionally, it's that same thing too. And I think women are better about it than a lot of men with regard to being more self-aware of their emotional state and capacities. Men notoriously are terrible about it, right? They're like, I'm fine. And it's no, you're an emotional basket case, right? You're a wreck, you're a disaster. But I think it's easier for us to shove feelings and emotions down deep and tell ourselves that we're okay. Yeah. It'll be fine. I'm fine.
Assuming they'll never come back up.
No, man, you need to go to 2 years of counseling. You need to figure that out. Yeah. But those are those are the lessons that I want to pass down or teach or talk about, because those are the things I think that have impacted me the most in my life because they're not as intuitive or obvious.
Well, and I think that's where AI is really going to help people. Now you go to a flipping seminar and they're going to teach you steps 1 through 10 of how to flip a house. You don't need that anymore. No. I can get you the steps 1 through 10. It's what are you going to do when step 3 doesn't work?
Right.
And I think that's what I'm shifting. That's what AI is going to introduce. Now, vet it, figure it out. You'll learn, hey, it assumed 5% vacancy. I should have assumed 7, right? You'll fix those. But pretty soon it'll be all right, I want to flip a house today. Give me the first 10 steps. Mm-hmm. And they'll be good steps. Contact realtor, find a deal, get your lender, right? It'll do those things. But the issue is, okay, now my lender wants 50% down. What does that look like? Hey, all of a sudden the property, my inspection didn't cover this. The foundation's cracking. What do I do? And I think that's what too much information or all this information is going to do is it's going to separate out those who mentally can handle it, because it's not going to fix that cracked foundation.
Well, and information is not execution.
Correct. That's right. Oh, dang it. That's a good line. Well, that's the one I'm thinking of.
It's not execution. It's also not knowledge. Is not the same. Knowing is not the same as doing.
That's what I mean. Is it just because you're going to have that information? The difference before was you used to have to go to a class, you had to read a book, or you had to figure out something, or you had to pick which book would have been the best one. Now it'll distill that down. Right. It's now who's the best at executing. And if you don't have luck, what are steps you're doing mentally to prepare for that execution? From organizing your day to it's all the other things now. And that's why I could believe in Elon saying nobody has to work, because you could create the information that creates the jobs, that creates the things. I still think he's overlooking, but you got to execute. Yeah. There's still an execution factor in the line of stuff we do. Now, again, there's probably business software systems that you don't need that. But when you're going to buy a house, add value, hold it, manage it, and ultimately sell it as an exit strategy. Two things. One is information is just information. So I could ask AI how to hit the perfect golf swing. Yep. Anybody who's ever golfed knows it's not about, I don't not understand. It's not an understanding thing. And maybe someone's like, yeah, well, you don't understand how to hold the club because you're not holding it the way I told you to or something. But I'm like, but fundamentally, I understand that I'm supposed to step up to this ball, approach it, swing my club, and it should go straight, and it should go relatively whatever. Mm-hmm. And yet I can't do it, and I can't do it, and I can't do it, and it keeps going right, and it keeps going left, and I can't. And so it's like, okay, well, it's not the knowledge. Now it's just a repetition thing. It's a practice thing. It's a honing in. So there's that aspect of the knowledge isn't going to solve everything with AI. I also think that one of the problems that AI is going to have
a real issue with, and the learning is we are notoriously terrible communicators
Correct.
about the holistics of what it is that we do. And so like an example of this would be like, there's so much that we do, I think, by like intuition or innately. Like I think of like my hobbies, and I'm like, well, some of the best like hunters I know just notice things, smell things, see things, watch an animal twitch, and it's like they never articulate it verbally. No. It's almost impossible. And so it's like, well, how are you going to learn from some of the best when they're not capable of like actually articulating to you why they do what they do or how they do what they do in the way that they do what they do? Because they might not even know. Yeah. They might not be even aware of the fact that like they decided to go do this or not do a certain thing because of something that they noticed. And you ask them like, well, how come you charged across that valley or didn't try, and they'll be like, well, it felt right. Yeah. Or it didn't feel right. Or like, you're getting this, how's AI going to learn that stuff? When you break it down to something that might be very tangible that AI could do, like welding. And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good, and especially those ones, because that's intuition. That's pieces learned, deduced from it. I think industries where you already have experts who do put those thoughts on paper. So you figure academics, medical fields, things like that are well researched, well documented.
White, yeah.
The issue those are what it's gonna those are what it's gonna solve first,
right?
Because what you need in those is a doctor who already knows the 17 surgeries that have ever happened. That can make a snap decision of, in case 3, when the vein burst, you needed to do this suture on it versus the other, right? Though that's where it's super effective, because it's just taking a ton of data, synthesizing it very quickly, and then putting out there, right? When I put my projects into it, it's just taking data. Well, who's providing the data? Half the brokers in Spokane don't use CoStar. Is it taking a CoStar report of vacancies?
Right.
Is it taking a U.S. Census data that's 10 years old and making assumptions the whole time? Right? And that's the thing, is it's only as good as the data input. And that's what's really hard to replace, is that, I guess you could weld, right? If I'm just making the same chair over and over. Put them in the field, though, where you have to make this bar's hanging down here. You actually have to cut the
quantity and quality of data, though, will also come into play, right? In the sense of not having the data. Yeah. And then having bad data.
Well, bad data is the worst.
Bad data is terrible, but also, like I said, not having the data. I think there's an assumption of like, it has all the data, but the data isn't all the information. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like if I were to sit down with people that play chess and I were to say, hey, tell me all the rules, tell me all the data, and you were to give it all, there might be certain things that are still unknown. Right?
See, I would argue with that one. So I think chess, you could figure it out.
Chess, you probably could, because you can see all the players.
Because the framework's only this big, right?
Take poker.
Yeah, poker's different. Because you have to read something.
Well, and because no matter what happens, right, there's always the outlier scenario. Right. Like, there's no way that 4 aces come up in a row. Yeah. Not in like a billion hands, but guess what? In a billion one hands, like, you could flop 4 aces, right? Like, so there's that sort of, no matter how much information you have, how do you plan for like the thing that hasn't happened yet, or the change, or like it always used to be a certain.
And it will just give you the statistic, though, right?
Right.
It'll just, so like, here's a good example. We were working on one so we could be more responsive for our management company on calls. So we're working with an AI one. Well, we're the ones feeding it the scenarios. Mm-hmm. Your faucet's leaking, your toilet's clogged, there's a fire, there's water damage, your neighbor's too loud, your dog's too loud. And so we're creating all these scenarios so that the more we equip it, it's there. The hard part is they're going to always have that outlier of, hey, it's my neighbor's, like something that just never thought that one, right? But as we put that next input in, of that did happen, the next input in, it's going to hit a point where it's now looking at those parts. My only part is, does it actually think of that scenario prior to, or is it only basing it off of what I've input it so far? So I think that's where it'll be interesting, but all of a sudden that's a position where we're more responsive now. It can immediately handle, which typically are, hey, I'm locked out of my unit. It can now handle that whole work order, get you into your unit. So there's this piece where I see it being super efficient, but in those worlds where you can quantify every piece of it, it's going to be super successful. But you go into most things like, and you own any 1916 homes, 1912 to 1918 ish.
Oh yeah.
You can
some
read
that
any
are-
book you
I
want.
got
You
some
can-
that are turn of the century, like the last century.
Yeah.
Right? To turn which century are we turning? Like late 18s.
Oh. Yeah, you
and-
can read anything you want. You don't know where that stuff's at. You don't know where the wires run. You don't know if they scab some other wood in the middle there. There's just too many variables. And so I think what it does is it'll attack industries that there aren't a lot of variables.
Yeah.
There just aren't. And then it's the predictability that it's trying to gain. But you said it before. It's just pattern recognition. The more patterns it can recognize, the more effective it'll be.
Yeah.
It's just, but bad information or non-information or those kind of things will make it less effective. And that's where the expert then steps up further. Now you have this tool that's there, but
So
I
this
know the
fundamentally goes back to how we started this podcast, which is, I guess, one of my questions is like, so how do you know truth? How do you know fundamental truth if, like, we know that we even question the information about landing on the moon?
Yeah.
I don't know if we land on the moon. I have no idea. All I can do is say there's a lot of supporting information that says that we've landed on the moon. Now I've also got some information that's popping up the same, like AI is the same way.
Yeah.
At some point in time, how does AI know the information that it's getting is good or bad? And it doesn't, but it's going with the presumption of it is good information. Or it's doing the same thing we is doing, which is just assessing the information that is available and making its own decision.
Yeah.
Well, I don't, this is the amount of information I have about the moon landing. This seems overwhelmingly more convincing than this. I'm just going to go with yes. But now you got a kid at home that's asking AI if like the moon landing was real, and AI is going to say it was or it wasn't. But it's doing the same thing that a human would have done, which is assessing the information that was available, which in and of itself is limited and or could be flawed.
Well, but I mean, there was a point there. I mean, the stats wrong, but it's like 40% of the information was pulled from Reddit.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Right. I mean, so at that point even, and so I think to answer your question, I think this goes even to more what we were saying is like, that's why you play the game.
Yeah.
That's why you have to get off the sidelines and go play the game or put your money in something that historically, doesn't mean it's going to happen the next 10 years, historically has proven a return, right? Or get off your ass and go play the game. Become so good at what you do. Like whenever it spits something out, I'm like, I know that's not true. I know the 10 owners and their occupancy level. I know they're conceding rents, but not publishing that data, right? If you're not in the game, you'll never know those facts. So pick your lane. The difference is, which sucks because I played 3 sports in high school, but is I don't think you can go play 3 sports anymore. If you want to be really good at it and you want, AI is not going to allow you to, because you got to get in there and learn, hey, in this type of house, this is where it's effective. Then if you use AI tools, you're going to do exponentially better because now you're applying what you already know with it.
I think the important thing for me that I'm trying to keep in mind is using AI for what AI is, which is a tool.
Yeah.
And the cynical, pessimistic kind of like cautionary Keith is telling a younger generation of like just not to trust AI completely, not because of like some scary, weird, it's going to rise up against the people thing in World War III, but more just like understand that it is doing exactly what a good, smart human would be doing. And it's not perfect, right? Yeah. And also be careful with how much you're leaning on it, to the extent of like, you still are going to want to be able to probably have some of that ability or those life skills available to you. And I think that's the 2 scary things that I'm seeing right now is I see people are taking to heart that it's more correct or has more utility than it does. Yeah. And they are discounting or doing themselves a disservice by starting to rely too much on it. Yeah. And they're not developing skills.
I think that's the bigger one. It's the quick weight loss drug. It's the get ripped fast. It's the worst part of our society. And I'm not saying I'm not judging the part, but what it is it's skipping the step of learning the lesson, because there's no skills developed and our mind can't process. Like the reason you're supposed to read in a book isn't so that they sell more books. It's because studies have shown that reading and then writing it down after helps you actually remember and do it. So you're going to have this tool that remembers everything. Mm-hmm. Like I was Whitney's grandma, she's passed away now, but she would remember like the dress she wore at the age of 12 at an event. I can't even tell you what I did 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Why? Because my phone holds it. If I ever needed to, I would just go back to Instagram or back to my phone and be like, oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Me and Keith were drinking at Brick West on Thursday. That's what's happening. And what the difference is, it's freeing up our mind. It's supposed to free up our mind to go do more things, more high dollar, not even high dollar, just more less meaningless tasks, like menial
Well,
tasks.
I think that's an assumption in itself, though, right? Like that's another kind of important differentiator, but it's also, I think, you could take AI out of the question, but just take any sort of convenience or ease in your life, and you'll see a dichotomy.
Yes.
There are people who right now need to mow their lawn, and if I came over to their house and said, "Hey, Jordan, don't worry about mowing your lawn today. I'm going to mow it for you," you would now have a decision to make, and you go, "I'm going to go downstairs and watch Netflix all day, or I'm going to take this opportunity to go hang out with my daughter and walk around downtown, or I'm going to take this opportunity to go mow that rental lawn that I was going to mow after I mowed my lawn." That was, you know what I mean? Like, and as an individual, you would take that convenience and then you would utilize it to leverage yourself into making a different decision. And I think that unfortunately, and I say this truly, I think unfortunately is that societally we have somehow created convenience, and the more and more convenience we create as a precursor to us having to do less and less and less. Like for me, that's almost become like a cultural thing that I don't think used to be a cultural thing. And also it's become kind of like very problematic, especially for younger generations, is like, what is the point of convenience?
Right.
Well, I don't have that if I don't have to do it. Okay, well, what if you don't have to do it? Well, then I can go party on a yacht and drink champagne all day. Like that's kind of that Hollywood mentality. I'm like, but that's not realistic.
No.
And long term, that's a terrible idea, right? But that's the differentiator I'm seeing right now, and the generations, and then also in the AI world, is like, are you utilizing it so that you can
for convenience? Or
but it is convenient. Yeah. We're all utilizing it for some sort of convenience, but what are we choosing to do with the convenience that it creates of taking those things off our plate? That to me is the more important question. Yeah. Like if this in your real estate business, you can get this thing to do X, Y, and Z for you so that I don't have to do these things anymore that were taking me time. The responsible business owner would say, well, great, then that frees me up to go do other things that will propel my business forward. Which is the concept, right? Yeah. Or will help my clients not get off work every day earlier and not work as much, right? And maybe it's a combination in between, but I'm saying like what I'm seeing more times than not is that people are utilizing it to do things and they're not replacing it with necessarily things that are of utility.
Yeah, and then eventually you lose that purpose part and the things that drive you. And then just seeing what small decisions make, that idea to get up instead of watching a Netflix show and go mow the yard. It's not even the mowing of the yard. It's what you do after you just mowed the yard. It's how your mind tricks itself into being like more productive, more like then you're going to go do the next thing. You're going to go do the next thing. And it's this weird.
I'm trying to put my thumb on this, but I feel like it's reoccurring themes. But like you said, it's like, why do we do that? Why do we lie to ourselves about our mental or our motivation or emotional capabilities? Like, and it's like, do we do it intentionally or not? And I think it's the same thing with these conversations. There's like something you can't put your thumb on that's fundamentally human, that's problematic in nature when it comes to some of this stuff that creates these cycles, right? And one of them is, whether it is, like you said, peptides or Ozempic or a weight loss thing, or it's if we can find a way to get the result by skipping the process, we see value in that and we take advantage of it. Yeah. We're like, dude, I don't have to go to the gym. I can eat this pill. Yep. I look ripped, right? If that pill existed today, how many people would take it? Millions.
Everyone.
Millions of people would take it. Not everyone, but millions of people. And yet it would fundamentally be true that taking the pill would make you look like that and that would achieve the result. And yet we always seem to miss, what did we not get in the process? And the thing that you didn't get was like the discipline of going to the gym. You didn't get like the endorphins or the high of like trying hard and seeing your results be your effort, and like the days that you didn't feel good, or like the days you got, like, it's like you miss so many things, and yet the start and finish are the same, right? So it's like, hey, Jordan, we just had Bloomsday weekend. It's like, what if you could be at the start line and I could snap my finger and you'd be at the finish line? And you'd be like, but at some point I think you go, no, like I wanted to run Bloomsday. Yeah. But no, Jordan, I don't think you understand me. Like if we're at the start line, I can just snap my fingers and you can be at the finish line. And you're like, yeah, but I wanted to run Bloomsday, right? So like there's a part of us where I think sometimes that's that little piece, is like sometimes we want the result and we don't want to do the work, but it's typically in the scenarios where we don't want the work.
Yeah. Well, and here's the bow to put on it, because I think that summarizes kind of what I was thinking, is that everyone we've talked to now has appreciated the finish line because of the journey. And so no matter where you're at in the journey right now, it's like stop and reflect on the beauty of being in that journey, because the finish line isn't the part you're going to celebrate. It's the fact you overcame, did what you needed to do.
Assuming that you like the
Correct.
journey or the work.
Yeah,
right?
but even if you don't, I think it's still at the end of it, your reflection back is what you overcame, right? You're going to fix up this house, knowing you'll put the 30 in, you'll do the long-term smart move. But it's like, it's going to suck. It's going to suck for 6 weeks.
I don't have a choice.
I know.
We already went over this, Jordan. I don't have a choice.
Yeah. There was probably an option 5 in there. But like, well, that's how, I was about to say, that's how slumlords are born. They don't have 30, they have 5. Now your quality of rental's down, and so you have to rent it to somebody. Well, the rents go down. That class of tenant can't afford it. Anyways, but we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. But I think that's the point. I think why I'm mentally, I don't even know that stuff crazy has changed a ton. Things are going, which is great. But like, I think it's now I've learned to sit in and enjoy the journey. And when I get to the finish line, I think I'll be excited. But I think I'll be really excited because I know what it took to get through there and to get there. And my fear of AI is it's going to replace the journey. And we think we just want the end.
The aha out of this conversation, for me, I'm having it right now, but the aha I'm having right now out of this conversation is, Keith, every time you feel yourself looking for that quick fix, you probably should question whether or not you're enjoying the work, or whether or not this is work that you, even if you're not going to enjoy it, should be doing.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's a tell sign.
And that's kind of like, you know, like, I don't want to have the uncomfortable conversation of breaking up with my girlfriend. So Jordan's like, oh, I'll go talk to her for you. And I'm like, cool. Jordan, will you go break up with my girlfriend for me? Exactly. And it's like, yeah, but that's a terrible idea. Right? And yet it's what we want. What we want is like, I don't know why I thought of that example, but it's like, but what we want is to get out of the work, and we want the result. And yet that's long term, that's a terrible idea, and you're not going to be equipped for the next conversation, and you're not going to learn through the you know, it's all these things. But like, that's my biggest aha to this conversation is like, I probably should be more aware of there's something I should lean into or pay attention to anytime I'm looking for that result without the
one thing that changed my mindset and everything that I was telling you before, but like at the end of every day I'll just do, it's one thing that happened to me today because of what I just went through.
Yeah.
Like, what's one thing that, because I went through this, whether it's, hey, I live downtown, I love it. I love living downtown. I'm going to live downtown forever. Like, or if it's, now I drive Logan to school every day.
Yeah.
So I get to see her. Like, and it's this weird thing is that it's just gratitude, right? It's gratitude, but it's this weird reverse one of now making the journey the joy.
Well, and I think Warren Buffett talked about that, where it was like, how do you, you know, stay positive, right? But he was saying anything, something negative like that happens, he would talk about like 3 I gets.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, this tenant just shit the bed on this house and destroyed it. But now it's like, but now I get to spend time with my nephew, who's going to help me this Saturday do the trash out. Now I get to see in this new economy with prices as high as they are, what my true cost of renovation is going to be for, you know, my new baseline. Now I get to, and so it's like 3 I gets.
Yeah.
So 3 positive I gets would kind of like rewire a person to focus more on the positive than the negative. Like, I think Warren Buffett.
I think that's really good, right? Because then you think about, hey, I just lost my best employee. Okay, well, now I get to look at that position and see what it does for us. I get to go now see what I need to take on more, what I can do better as a lead, right? And I think if you can just switch, it's what I found is I just wanted through that. Do you ever watch Click? I can't recommend the movie. It's not great, but like, it's Adam Sandler where he has the remote control.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I just wanted to just push fast forward all the time. And I'm like, just fast forward, just show me where it is. And even in that movie, you'll see the point is that you miss that is the joy. And we keep holding this like end result. We keep holding the finish line up as that joy. And I think if we just found
it's so long since I watched that movie.
Well, I wouldn't recommend going back and necessarily watching it. The concept.
Can he use the rewind button?
No rewind.
No rewind.
Fast forward, and then it
can
actually
pause?
And then went faster. Yeah, so you could slow mo or do that, but then it would go faster every time he did it. And so just these shots through his life.
Getting really old, and
and you look at it and you're like, man, but I'm finding that now too, is like, if I just kept waiting for that end, that joy that I'm not even sure really exists or what it is, then you're missing those day-to-day things. Like, I drove in from Priest today after showing the cabins. It's like this beautiful sunrise coming over, taking off from the lake. Like, how special. If you would have told me 10 years ago that was part of my life, or that could be a part of my life, I'm like, wouldn't have believed you. And I think too often we keep looking so far ahead, we forget that sometimes today is good because there's problems, there's wars,
I have to
there's
intentionally.
things.
I'm very bad about that. I have to intentionally.
Yeah, I have to do it every night. I have to do it like every night I do it just because I'm like, just reframe. Yeah, right. Today.
Reframe and be intentional about moments. So, like I was at a friend of mine's kid's birthday party the other weekend, and I bet you I had 3 people ask me if I was okay. But I was just, and I was fine. I was fine. I was fine, Jordan.
Obviously,
I was
fine, man. Yeah.
No, I was just wound up. Like I didn't want to sit down. Like I wanted to go. Like I'm in my mind. I'm like, and so it was like one of these things where I was like, dude, this is a moment in this child's life or in my life, right? That instead of enjoying the moment, I'm in future mode, right?
Yeah.
I got these problems I got to solve. I got this thing, and I'm not talking like super. I'm like, I need to go home and mow my own lawn.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but just in your mind, think,
but I'm also now trying to get better at like, no, I'm here now.
Yeah.
Right. And like, how often do I get to do this? So it's like one of those, and just being, again, there's a big difference between knowing and doing, and just being aware of it is helpful.
Yeah.
The thing that I've been really, I've struggled with, but then always been really purposeful about is like, now how do I actually do it? How do I hit the golf swing? Like okay, I'm not present in moments that I should be present. I'm a little bit anxious. I'm a little bit worked up. I'm a little bit living in the future. Okay, now I'm aware of all that. Yeah. But now I'm still in this living room at my friend's house at this party and having a hard time calming the fuck down. Yeah. So how do I actively do that? And so, it's like, okay, I got to, first I got to remove myself from the situation for 10 minutes. I need to go out into the garage, or I need to go out by my truck, and I need to breathe, and I need now I have to do the thing to hit the golf shot, right?
Well, and I think, this kind of to that point, because you said 3 people came and approached you. I read a pretty good book called Relentless, but one of the stories about Kobe talking to his wife, and he always played through injuries, no matter how injured he was. And this was a conversation with him and his wife, but he said the reason he does is because there was some fan that bought a ticket that may never come to a game again, and their whole point was to come watch and see Kobe play one time. And you think about that, like sometimes you got out of bed, you consciously fixed your attitude, you did something here, and you have no idea if those 3 people saw you and like, man, Keith's going through so much, and look how happy he is. Like maybe that's something I can do. And the cool part about life is like sometimes you just drop a rock in the water and you just have no idea what those ripple effects are. And I think that's why I'm probably always positive or optimistic, is because you're like, you don't know. You don't know if you're surviving today is somebody's guidebook for tomorrow.
Well, and I'm always in awe at the stories that I've heard about people that are closest to me or people that I've known where I had an experience with them. And then I find out later, could be a week, could be months, could be a year later, that like, hey, remember that time we were all hanging out at Priest and we had that really good fun time and blah, blah, blah. And we took this bar. And you're like, yeah. And like, did you know that Nancy was going through cancer? And I'd be like, wait, what? Mm-hmm. And they'd be like, yeah, dude, she literally had chemo like scheduled the next morning. And I'd be like, I had no idea. Are you kidding me? And they're like, yeah, dude, like right in the middle. And I'm always like, that's insane to me, right? Yeah. Like those kind of people are so inspiring to me. Like and I think that's why I think of like my grandparents, or I think of like the elders, like, dude, they dealt with so much and they do it with grace. And then they're like, and like, that's the old adage now of like, go out and have dinner with my old man or something. I'm like, Dad, how did you do it? Yeah. How did you do it? Right? Because you find out all these things, right? Yeah. Well, did you know that they were on the brink of this, or that this had just happened, or that you're like, no, I was 10. I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And I think that's just kind of what gets me fired up thinking about it. But like, just thinking about that. And every day there's somebody, pretend there's somebody watching that, just hoping you get through, because that's how they're going to get through. And so like, it helped me every morning. You're like, get up. Okay, if I can solve this, then what if it helps inspire one person that's going through it to solve it, right? Yeah. And you just have this life of meaning. Then everything you're doing has meaning, because your journey, and you keep going and you keep pressing and you keep learning, means there's other people that are watching you do that.
Yeah.
And it's the coolest thing. Nobody's come up and said, hey, Jordan, nice job. You're doing great. But in my head, it's like the piece that gets going is you have no idea what that impact is. And I think that's where that kind of curiosity, the general kind of expectation. I love having these conversations with you, because I know that you've dealt with some of this stuff too, but I also love just hearing how other people are dealing with the same scenarios in their own lives. Like our lives are very different. And our situations and scenarios are very different, as much as we might talk about similar things, but also we're dealing fundamentally with
similar issues. And I know a lot of the listeners are anybody else. So it's like, how are you dealing with that? What are some of those practices? What are some of those things? And I think for me, reframing and keeping that perspective, I love that perspective of like, do it for somebody else or whatever. It's because that's really what it comes down to is if you can fix it on your own, fix it on your own. If you need to find ancillary reasons, find ancillary reasons. But good ancillary reasons a lot of times are other people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, if you can't do it for you, do it for somebody else.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And that's like whether it's staying sober, whether it's making a buck, whether it's, you know, something. It's like, it's a lot of times it's like, hey man, if you can't do it for you, find a big enough ancillary reason. And Tony Robbins talks a lot about that. He's like, if you want to cure yourself of depression, if you want to cure yourself of anxiety, a lot of these kind of ailments that humans have, he's like, worry about somebody else for like a whole day, right? And your problems will go away, right? So it's one of those, like, you're not worried about being hungry when you're worried about feeding other people.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just funny how timing is. I was listening to Ed Milet, listening to his, and his dad was an alcoholic, and somebody saved him. And he's like, well, what about the guy who helped my dad? He's like, that guy had to have had a story where he was an alcoholic. The worst part of his life ends up being the thing that changes the guy's life, who has the son who changes millions of lives. I just listened on my walk, so I was like, dang it, man, this is so good. And it's just one of those little pieces that sometimes we get in our own head. So I would challenge anybody in their own head right now. Just know you're doing it for a reason, right? Super, super motivating. Then you go out there and you find it. So,
well, and the last piece of advice that I would leave anybody, and I try to tell myself all the time, is like, sometimes I can drive myself bonkers trying to figure it all out and analyzing it all, but it's like, just go do the next damn thing.
Yep.
Just go to that crappy house and fix it. Just make that one phone call that you need to make. Just, you know, I think that's the biggest piece of advice that I can give myself or anybody else at the time is like, well, be reflective, think about it, you know, watch your mindset, watch your framing, put measures in motion to like balance all that. And at the end of the day, like do the next hard thing that you got to do.
Yeah.
You know, put one foot in front of the other. And that's just kind of, that's life, man. That's the grind. You know?
Yeah. And I think that eventually you'll see that that's the joy too.
Well, and what I'm tying a bow on this, right? Like what I love about this, like chess, not checkers, sometimes we want chess to be this sophisticated, nuanced, like, oh, chess, not checkers. Like, oh, like, you know, chess players are so in checkers. It's like, we have sometimes those really, really simple things are the difference maker,
correct,
right, in life. And I think that's that unintuitive aspect of it is, it's not that complicated, man.
No, it's not. We want it to be. We feel like it should be, but it's.
Well, if I'm struggling with something and I can tell myself a story of like it's really complicated and nuanced and hard, then that gives me a reason to hide in like not fixing it, or reveling in my problems, right? Yeah. Admitting to myself, like, hey man, it's really not that hard. You just got to go do that one hard thing you don't want to do.
Yeah.
No, it can't be that easy.
There's no way.
There's no way it's that easy. Yeah, you just got to call. You just got to make that call. You got to do that thing. You know?
That's why I love this podcast, man. Like I said, it's what keeps me going.
All right, you guys. Well, if you enjoyed this episode or any of our others, please like, subscribe, and. All right, you guys. Thanks for listening to today's episode. While you're out there, would you please do us a favor and give us a like, subscribe, or a follow, whether you listen on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you don't mind while you're there, give us a 5-star review. Maybe write a review. If you have a favorite episode, feel free to give it a like. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.